Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning in for this show. I'm your host, Wire. You can also call me the promo guy. My guest today is Mike Rice. He's the Vice President, Practice Leader of the Raise Special Events Insurance Program and Associate Agent. Mike in over 35 years in the insurance industry. And he has been a licensed broker since 1976. How you doing, Mike?
I'm good, thank you.
Um, you have so much experience. Actually, you fill up my entire sheets as a bio. Uh, for the viewer and listener, would you mind to give us a quick bio and your experience in the insurance industry?
Sure, I came to work for this company in 1977. Didn't even know how to spell the word insurance at that point. And over time, I moved into the production side where I've been since 1982. And I've been privileged enough to work with some really good people in the insurance industry and learn from them, and at the same time be able to specialize in a lot of different areas.
Okay, I know one of your focus and you're leading the program is the race and special events industry. So
Right.
as we know, the industry been affected deeply, and all the events that I know are canceled, postponed. And then on your side, I wanted to get your take for 2021. If we're going to have events or running races, uh, how does the insurance industry look? Are we going to get more expensive in terms of premium, or maybe some other event are not able to get the insurance that they used to get?
Yeah, so what we're seeing now is the running industry is still on hold, except in very specific cases where you're seeing very small events of a couple hundred people. The majority of the events that you're going to see are going to be in the third and fourth quarter of this year. At this point, what we're seeing in the insurance industry from a pricing perspective is we are seeing an increase in some pricing, and insurers are looking very seriously at what is going on and what they're being asked to insure to make sure that all of the safety and security protocols are being put into place. And obviously, as we move further down through the year and the vaccines come along and people get those, that will also make a difference in the way the insurance companies look at it.
Are there any special type insurance that will be available? Because obviously there is a risk right now for this event. That's why not a lot of people are putting events right now. Moving forward, do you see there will be like a special coverage to ensure like mass gathering events?
Well, I think that the key will be that, and what everyone has to understand is that there's not going to be any coverage down the line for anything dealing with COVID or with any kind of communicable disease. That there will be full policy exclusions going forward for an indefinite amount of time. What we very often see in the insurance industry is one insurance company will decide, well, they're willing to take a chance, and that might force the issue. But don't expect to see anything for the next 3 or 4 years. They're going to this is going to become the responsibility of the race directors and the companies putting on the events to put on the safest events possible, forgetting the whole need for insurance as respects the health safety of the participants. The people will still need to buy insurance to cover the events themselves, but in a non-disease basis.
Okay. So since you've been in the industry for so long, and I always ask this question to an experienced insurance agent, it's the approach that we have. As a small business, our normal approach like that I would do, I will admit, is to, figure out what coverage that we're going to need. And I shop for 3 quotes, right, for the same coverage. And I pick the lowest one. But then I know your approach, you have a different approach for risk management. Can you talk on both ends and why you think that risk management is a better way to do in terms of getting the right insurance?
Look, I fully understand that businesses have to be concerned about what their expenses are, and that's why they're going to always try to find the lowest price. The problem is buying the lowest price doesn't always buy you the best coverage. So when we look at it from a different perspective, it's what is that broker going to provide to you as the guy that is buying the coverage. So I think a couple of things that you want to know. First of all, that people have to understand is insurance cannot solve every problem that they're going to find. But if the coverage is written correctly, that's going to make the situation better overall. You can't insure everything. But if you do have coverage and you do have a loss, what you do have will bring you back to where you were before the loss. The other thing that I really stress is that instead of seeing insurance as an operational cost, which is I'm going to spend X number of dollars in my budget, I really have been talking to people about making it a strategic expense. And when we define that, that's going to be an expense that will strongly protect the profit of your business. And if we look at things that way, that how are we going to get up and running, and those dollars that we're going to spend, you may never have that loss. But like in anything else, you need to be protected, and you want to be protected in as many ways as you possibly can. And so I think those are the two key pieces. Then when we talk about it from a risk management perspective, you can say, well, what can we do to better protect our business that may not involve insurance directly? So one of the things that we talk to all of our clients about, it doesn't have to be in the race industry, but even the general business industry as well, is if you are going to have a business relationship with somebody, you want to make sure that you have an agreement, a contract, so that everybody knows exactly what is going to be expected. And then if you want somebody to name you as an additional insured on their policy to protect you from their actions, the agreement that you have in place will benefit you in that regard. Otherwise, the additional insured endorsement doesn't work. So you're able to lay off the liability on someone else. We have had claims in the running industry where, because of the additional insured endorsement and because of the contract being in place, that our client has not had to pay for anything because it became the responsibility of the party that in this particular case set up a fence that collapsed. So there are ways of doing this that is outside of insurance, and that it becomes our responsibility to talk to you or anybody else and say, these are what your exposures are, and this is how you should be doing it better. So the whole issue of certificates is really key. One of the other things that we're seeing a lot in the running industry is, as we expand the programs, there's a requirement to be doing background checks on everybody. So your full-time employees, for sure, your key volunteers should be background checked, especially if you're dealing with underage kids. If you're running special programs within the industry for kids, then you need to be background checking. And the insurance companies are going to want to know what you're doing and that you're looking at these things on a regular basis. You don't have to background check somebody every year, but if you do it every couple of years, that's going to work just fine. So that's a risk management piece, because now you're trying to protect your business. Is there an expense? Sure. But at the other end of the day, it may protect you in a much different way than what you had expected before.
That could mean a lot of work, for like a bigger event. That could mean thousands of people, right?
Yes.
But then obviously there's something to consider. If in the case that someone didn't check out, at least right? So I want to bring back to your example, and I think I put it in my perspective. I will also see like you mentioned, having your broker as your advisor. So would you try to understand the policy that you've written, and also get into more of the client's business? Because one of the reason that we recently encountered is a contract that we need to work on. The company wants us to include them in the policy, and then we try to get that insurance coverage, but not a lot of agents took the time to understand our business. There are certain dynamics, certain way that we purchase, and certain way we deal with. Then they just want to fit into the template. So can you tell us a little bit more, why having you as an advisor to actually advise their business can actually help on the bottom line?
In fact, our company just changed its name last year to include business advisors within the name of our company, because that's where we want to position ourselves. That if I'm going out to see you as a new client, or anybody else for that matter, I must be able to sit down and talk with them and understand exactly what it is that your business is doing and how you're doing it. When somebody calls me and says, I need insurance and I only want to spend X number of dollars, they're not the client that we want to necessarily be dealing with. We want to build a relationship with someone where I understand exactly what your business is and how you're going to get from point A to point B. And then we will help you develop the insurance program. Very often, one of the things that I see all the time is that a small businessman like yourself wants to do business with a much larger company. Mm-hmm. You're going to call me as the broker and say, Michael, these guys want me to carry $10 million of liability insurance, and that's going to put me out of business, right?
Yeah,
I understand that.
exactly. Yes.
Right. So my suggestion at that point is that we can draft something, we work with you so that you can go back to that guy and say, look, this doesn't make any sense. We're going to only sell you a bunch of jackets like this. Well, we have X number of dollars of liability insurance. What are you guys willing to do? Sometimes large companies will adjust. Sometimes those companies say, nope, we're not willing to budge. At that point, you as a business person have that decision. Do you want to spend that kind of money so that you can say that you're working with this particular type of a company? Or are you willing to walk away from it? And I think that's one of the toughest things that any business person has to do, especially when they're selling a product, is knowing at which point they're going to say, I can't do this anymore, or I have to walk away from it, or something of that nature. And we approach people like that all the time. That is part of our job as an advisor, not just selling that product. And that's, if you want to just have somebody sell you a product, go deal with a State Farm or an Allstate guy, because that's all they're going to do is sell you based on price. But if what you want is someone that has the experience, in my case, since 1977, that we've gone through a lot of different business cycles and business problems, we have the experience, then you want to find somebody with a lot of experience. And it doesn't matter what the industry is, whether it's the promotional stuff like you do, or the running of special events, or I also do nonprofits and jewelers and all sorts of things. It's our job to understand what those businesses are, what is important to them, and to listen to what they're saying.
I think that's very important, and I'm glad that I used myself as an example. You're correctly. That is the exact scenario. A bigger organization want to do business with us, but then they want us to insure them entirely. Which is, and then at the end, like you suggest, we got to figure out the profits that we potentially will have. Getting those orders, is it worth taking out the insurance premium that can covers it, or a business decision will be made. Maybe we get a foot in the door and develop a relationship with them. Maybe at first, with the premium, we are paying out of pocket, minus the profit. But then there could be potential bigger orders down the line. Is that a viable decision for a business? So I think having, you as an advisor, then you can say, oh, if they want more, this is what you're going to look at, and maybe you can go back to them, say, we don't really deal with that. Can you, change the wording a little bit? And they will say yes, and sometimes they say no.
Right, and we go through this all the time, and we have somebody that provides services in the political realm, and we will get a request to look at a contract, and they always ask for higher limits, and we go back and we say, no, you don't have this. It'll cost you X number of dollars to buy it. They go back to their client or their prospect, and 99% of the time, the deal is a done deal, and we don't have to sell them anything more, and they can move on and do what they need to do. But again, it's all based on what is your insurance broker willing to do to help you out? Is he willing to get on the phone with you and the person who's asking for this, and for a three-way type of a conversation to help you out? those are the kinds of things. And I think that the key to any broker, whether especially the best brokers, are the guys, the men and women, I should say it that way, that live and breathe their business. I think that's the key piece, is that you just can't be an insurance broker from 8 in the morning until 6 at night. That 5 days a week. We're forced to live and breathe our business. And the guy I've had people call me at 7 o'clock at night, and I answer the phone, and they say, "Why are you answering the phone?" I said, "Because why are you calling?" I said, "Well, we just want to leave you a message." I said, "Nope, now you're going to talk to me, because that's the key difference." That is a difference. And that is, so when you say to me, "Well, I'm going to get 3 quotes and I'm going to take the lowest one," you know what? At the end of the day, the pricing isn't going to be that different from a Hartford to a Travelers to whoever. But at the end of the day is, do you feel comfortable with that broker? Is he going to be there? Is his staff going to be there to help you? You know, my company, but in all of our offices, we have over 150 employees. My responsibility as the broker is to know which person in my office I want to go to so they can help you. If you have claims problems, if you have a bunch of employees, if you're a larger company, you have 50, 100, 150 employees, and you're having workers' compensation problems, we have people in this office that can help you with that. And we're willing to do that. Oh, and it doesn't cost you anything. A lot of other places will charge you. So your job as the business owner should ask the question, what else are you going to provide? What is going to be the value added to dealing with me, dealing with you as my agent, and how is it going to help my business? I think that's a key question that you always want to have an answer to.
Yeah, I love the advisor approach, because, as a business, hopefully we're growing, right? Then as you get bigger, as you get into new territory, I'll call it, then you have different needs. So
Right.
having an advisor who knows your business and then knowing who to ask and what to do on the back end is very important, because there might be a program that you guys have that you didn't know about, reading blog or whatever way that we get our information. But by talking to you might actually save money at the end. Maybe there's a program that already bundle with what you're going to need with the growth that you have. And then, just by knowing there are better suggestions that better suit your needs.
Right. So there's 2 things. Let me just give you 2 things. First of all, I think that as we come out of this COVID piece, businesses have to recognize the fact that it's not going to be the way it was a year ago. Mm-hmm. Businesses are not going to be the same, whether they're working out of an office, they're working out of people's homes, whether, whatever the case is. And so the insurance broker is going to have to be in a position to recognize that and to ask those questions as to what are the changes that your business is. And we're going to have to work with you in order to do that. I think the other piece that you as a small business owner want to know are the keys. What coverages should I have in the event that I have a loss? So one of the examples that we always use is cyber liability. In the event that your computer system gets hacked, or you walk in one morning and there's been a ransomware attack, all of this stuff that goes on, and that could put you out of business. And I have had situations where, I offer this coverage to people all the time and say, no, Michael, I'm never going to have a hack. It's never going to happen. Guess what? It does happen. And it happens up in the cloud. It doesn't matter whether your equipment is in your office or it's sitting up in the cloud. You can still get hacked, and you are going to have responsibilities to get up and running. Will you have enough money coming in to help you because of your loss of business? And that happens all the time. So when people read an article in a journal or they read it in a newspaper about business situations, a fire or cyber loss, or these things actually happen. And it doesn't just happen to the other guy. It's going to happen to you. And you need to be ready, and your broker needs to be ready in order to be responsive. Now, there may not be anything. I have a guy that called me last week after the first snowfall in Chicago where car rammed into the building. Now, his space is okay so far, but what should he do? And we've had 2 or 3 calls just so that it would make him feel better about what his next steps would be. And I offered to talk to them. He said, no, I can handle that part. That's fine. But sometimes all we're there is to hold somebody's hand and help them over a difficult place. And that is a key thing. And there's not a lot of brokers out there that are willing to do that. But if you're an advisor, you are always going to be the advisor. Now, we may not make any money being an advisor, right? We only make something if we sell you a product, right? But that over the long run, that's the key. That we want to make sure that we've insured your business, that we've insured your home, that we've got your life insurance to protect you and your family. So I don't have to look at your wife and say, oh my God, why didn't we do something like that? And so those are the key things to being an advisor, and forgetting about this business of, well, I saved $1.98, so I went with somebody else.
Yeah. Well, I love that approach. And since Mike, you're the perfect person, I actually do want to become an advisor in marketing. My clients' marketing journey. I want them to kind of exactly done what you said in the insurance industry. When you think of anything marketing, I want to be the advisor that can help them. Like you said, I know different people that could help them on the back end, or maybe if I'm unable to do so, I would already know someone who can help them. So, they call me, like you said, I don't necessarily make money then and there, but then they will call me because they trust me that I can help them. So with that, with all the experience that you have, do you always deal with your business that way? Or how did you develop that approach and figure out that it's better to be an advisor in your industry than just to, cold call like 100 people and ask them for insurance? Like, when did you discover that for yourself?
We still do it somewhat like that. But I think really I was taught by some of the best insurance guys I've ever met in my career. And they were mentors to me in some cases for over half of my life. And when you sit with, I would go out on a call and I would sit there, and it might be 100. It was, one of these places were dry cleaners. And we'd be there in the middle of the summer. It was 100 degrees and we were still wearing jackets and ties then. And I just sat there. I couldn't talk, right? I had nothing to say. But the guy I was with was talking to his client, and I had to just sit there and listen. And it was the hardest lesson, but that's how you do it. You watch what somebody else does. Unfortunately, that guy has passed away 20 years ago, but it is not unusual to this day that someone will call me up and say, well, I remember when you used to come in here and Arthur would tell me what to do, and I'm still doing that. And that when I finally retire or leave this business, which is hopefully is not in a long time, I want people to be able to say, Mike Iser used to say this to me, and I'm still doing that. Because I became a trusted advisor to him, just like his accountant and his lawyer and his banker, because that's the key. That is what I personally want. And it's based on watching what other guys do, and sometimes, we do a good job, but then somebody might think that they're doing a better job. Okay, sometimes we win, sometimes we lose. But our job is to be there for you when you need us, whatever that means. And that can be 7 days a week. And I do get calls on Saturday and Sunday as well, because I let people know. The only time they can't get a hold of me is when I'm playing golf, because I will not take my phone on the golf course. But other than that, you can always get a hold of me.
Okay. So it's good that you recommend the listener to find a good mentor, or someone that you wanted to model and look up to, and just follow their footsteps and see how they approach their business, how they interact with client, and then learn from that. So you learn by doing.
And even yesterday I had a call with a guy who's been in the business as long as me, and we don't get to see each other because of COVID. We're rarely in the office at the same time. But I was on the phone with him for an hour. We discussed a lot of different stuff, including business and what he does and what I do. And so even at this point, after 40 plus years in the business, we still learn from other people that do the job.
So any tips or advice for people who might stumble onto the insurance industry, since COVID? Like, any tips for the young ones out there in the industries?
I think this applies to whether it's the insurance business or the promotional business or any other business. if you want to be successful, you have to live and breathe what you do. You have to love it. We had a sales meeting this morning, and the CEO of our company said to everybody, one of the things I love is being able to get up in the morning because I love going to work. And I would say, I'm maybe not as excited as he is, but I do believe that as well. I work with the office here, when we're all here, is a great group of people. The office itself is a reason to come here because it's a good company, and they stand behind us and they allow us to do the things that we need. A lot of businesses don't allow you to do that. And I think so. A young person coming in, and I tell them this, they have to learn from somebody. They have to be lucky enough to find people that will teach them, to be mentors. And listen, we hire interns here coming out of college. Last summer, our internship program continued on in spite of what was going on. We hired 2 of the 5 that we brought in, and we've got another 5 coming in. So that's the key to building successful businesses. And then what I can do is, if they're interested in knowing about what I do, I'm always willing to talk. You and I know that. So there's always something that can be said or it can be taught. But you have to really want to live, and you have to love what you do, and you have to live and breathe what you do.
I think that it's the true key to success. You could talk to someone who been in the industry for as long as you do, and then you can tell by talking to them they have lost their passion. It becomes what they do. But then, by talking to you, I was very impressed. You're still learning, you're still changing, and you really like what you do. So you can really tell by just talking to that person, whatever
Right.
industry that you're in. And, which side do you want to be on? You want to be grumpy and just answer the phone, or you want to be passionate still after all these years?
And I've seen examples of all of those things, right? I've seen when you're grumpy and you answer the phone and you lose the business. And then you sit there and say, well, why'd you lose the business? Well, because you weren't nice to the person when they called, right? So it's if I promise you I'm going to do something, I have to do it. That and in a timely manner. In our office, we have to return all calls and all emails, if not within an hour, within a couple of hours. I mean, that's just the unwritten rule in this place, and people will learn to expect that from us. It's all about service. It's all about being there for the client, and so that when we talk about what is happening in the insurance industry, we have to be there and help them to get to the next step. It doesn't matter what kind of business is, whether it's the running business, whether it's your kind of business and promotions, or the local dry cleaner or anybody else. We always have to be there for them.
So, Mike, for the viewer and listener who want to reach out to you when you're not going on your tea time, what would be the best way?
Just if they email me, I'll always respond back to them. I think you've had those. You've posted those. Or they can always call me. I think that information is out there too. I'm on Facebook. I'm on LinkedIn. I can be found.
Okay. Thank you so much, Mike. Love the information, and I particularly love your approach, being an advisor. So for anyone who's listening, if you like the show, please subscribe and like, and we'll love some reviews for you if you're listening on Apple Podcasts. And thank you so much for coming on today, Mike.
My pleasure. Thank you for the opportunity.